Hello again, this is Kurgan here, back with another BF3 weapon review. Now it's been a little while since I've done one, and I've got a chance to play with some new weapons. Not necessarily new as in I haven't used them before, but new as in I haven't played with them for a long time, and that's what I'm going to be going over right now, is the A-91 carbine. Now this is a gun that I actually have quite a bit of kills with. It's a weapon that I used probably almost well over a year ago. I kind of switched away from it, and so I haven't gone back to it. And one of my friends was playing with it, so I decided, hey, why not give it a shot again? He said he was having a lot of fun, and it kind of didn't fit the maps I was using it on before. So I tried out some team deathmatch with it, and it actually was a really interesting change from actually playing just medic like everybody else normally does. So let's just talk about the gun now. There's no changes to this weapon from Aftermath or Armored Kill, so it's actually been unchanged for quite a while. I'm not sure when the last time it was patched, but it had to be, you know, that's what, about 5-6 months ago. So let's just talk about the weapon characteristics and what really makes this weapon. For starters, I feel that the bullpup design is the most defining feature for the A-91. The A-91 is a pretty fast-firing weapon at 800 RPM. It's not the fastest or even close to the fastest, but it's far from slow. There's a lot of weapons that are in the 700 and 600 range, so it's up there. And since it's a bullpup, that makes it extremely capable in close-quarter situations. For statistic purposes, let's compare the A-91 with the M4A1, since they both have the same rounds per minute firing. The A-91, while standing, has a 1.5 spread multiplier, and crouching a 1.0 multiplier, whereas the M4A1 has a 2.0 standing and a 1.5 crouching multiplier. And what that tells us is that the A-91 is as accurate standing while hip firing as the M4A1 is while crouching and hip firing. So that's a pretty big difference in mobility there, and a pretty big difference in accuracy. So as you can see, the bullpup design is just awesome for hip firing. Now, what does this all mean? The bullpup weapon design sounds like a clear choice because it can be applied to basically there's assault rifles with it and there's carbines with it. So you get a weapon that's the same as kind of the other weapons it competes with, but it has a better hip firing accuracy. And then if you look at it a little bit more, you realize there's no ADS spread penalty to the bullpup weapons. So the question is what has DICE done to the bullpups to balance them out? And what they basically do, or at least what it seems to me the trend is they give them a really high side-to-side recoil. For a bullpup weapon, having a recoil of 0.4 both right and left is actually a pretty low amount. The A-91 is on the high end for bullpups because of its fast fire rate, clocking in with a 0.5 recoil left and right, and that's quite a bit. You'll really notice it when using this weapon. It's going to really jump left and right on you, so you have to keep it under control. So knowing this, now the question is what loadout to minimize that horizontal recoil that bullpup weapons have. And for that, you could try and run with a foregrip, which is personally what I prefer. Without the foregrip, the A-91 has a 0.4 spread multiplier, while with it, it becomes a 0.5 multiplier, so it's a little bit of a gain on the spread. But to balance that out, you'll want to run with a heavy barrel, since the A-91 is actually able to use that. And what that will do is drop your ADS spread multiplier to lower than what the original multiplier of 0.4 is. So basically, that heavy barrel is going to help balance out the foregrip, and the foregrip is going to give you less side-to-side jump on your weapon. So it should be a little bit more accurate at medium ranges. You're not really going to want to use the A-91 at longer ranges than that. So if you decide to run with that setup on this weapon, it's going to give you a pretty rounded weapon using the foregrip and the H-bar. Now, after talking about the loadout for this weapon and its general characteristics, the real question is where to use this weapon and how. And we've already gone over the horizontal recoil on this weapon. Team that with its high rate of fire, and it can get a bit wild. This weapon can get a little crazy. The A-91 is a weapon that I mainly use for close quarter, and I dabble a bit in mid-range with it. Now how I prefer to use this weapon is mostly full throttle. Now for close quarters that works great, but for mid-range it's not always the best bet. But the way I look at it is if you're playing against another player comparable to yourself, odds are they're going to have a weapon that's going to be more accurate for the range that you're at. So my goal is to suppress them, wing them maybe a few times, and at this point, because of the A-91's fast fire rate, I hope they have gone for cover. And now what I'll do is I'll go for the flank while they are suppressed and trying to recover, probably with a health box down. So I'll pursue them and try and come from an angle that they don't expect, and something that's more preferable for me, because now they're hiding and I am on the attack. So I play very aggressive with this weapon, or I try to, and I try not to really get in too many mid-range engagements, and when I do, I'm just going to suppress them, and I'm going to try and get into a close quarter engagement where this weapon's probably going to come out on top. But that's not the only playstyle for this weapon. It does have a high first shot recoil, meaning you'll want to stick to the extended burst with it, because otherwise you're going to also have it jumping horizontal and vertical, which is not very good. Now, if you do take this route with the A-91 and do the extended burst, it's a pretty good method, but this is going to be a method that you're going to want to use in a server where you think you're going to be one of the better players. You're going to be on the top of the boards because, like I said, other guns are more accurate than this at mid-range. So if you're one of the top players and you think that you are a little bit better than these other people there, this is a method that you can use, the burst firing method, because you're not going to have to worry so much about your opponent actually killing you, because you know they're probably not quite as proficient with their weapon as you are. So you can burst fire it against them, save some ammunition, and actually not have to force that close quarters combat. Now, this is going to be the weapon that obviously is going to conserve more ammo, and it'll be extremely effective without risking aggressive play, but it's going to kind of depend on the skill of your opponent, because this weapon's just not as good at mid-range as other weapons. So you're really going to have to judge your playstyle based on the people that you're actually playing against at that time and how good they actually are as well. Now, my thoughts on all this and what I think of the A-91, like I said, I used to use A-91. This was one of my favorite weapons a long time ago, but I put it away for a good year, and I kind of went to the AKS-74U because I played more long-range maps. Now, going back to it, I almost am not sure why I put it away. I had an extreme amount of fun with it, and I can only assume it's because I just played the wrong type of maps and too big of maps to actually use it on. But if you use this weapon correctly and you use it on the right maps in close quarter battles with a little bit of mid-range dabbling, the A-91 is an absolute monster. Now, just remember to get a feeling for the horizontal recoil on it, because that's going to be the thing that you really have to control. Even with the foregrip, this thing can get really nasty on that. So it's just a byproduct of the fact that it's a high fire rate and it's a bullpup, so it's got that horizontal recoil, and horizontal recoil, any type of recoil on a high fire rate, is not a good team up. So you got to make sure to learn how to fire this weapon and to pick a loadout that's going to work well for you. Overall though, the A-91 is an extremely fun weapon. It has a pretty obvious niche, but it's not so limited by it that it becomes useless in other scenarios. So use its bullpup and fire rate to your advantage on a map that really takes advantage of it, and you'll be extremely happy. As always, this is Kurgan, and thanks for watching.